GitHub has become one of the core components of the open source ecosystem. It is also one of the core components of developer operations, often called DevOps, one of the core pieces of those pipelines that are constructed to develop new software. So let's go ahead and walk through the functionality of GitHub by creating a project and having a collaborator contribute to this project. We'll start off by navigating to GitHub. And GitHub is a place where you can create an account much like you would for any other service. You pick a username, an email, and your password, and you can join GitHub. Now I've gone ahead and created 2 demo accounts. These accounts are brand new, and so they do not have any projects. However, I am logging into them in separate browsers. One of the browsers is in green, so you will be able to recognize it by that color. And the user that is logged in here is Able Userman. And on the top, we have the one in gray with the gray tab background there, is a user called Peter Parker Data. Now we're going to start off by creating a repository. And if you have not heard the word repository associated with GitHub, or you've heard it but are not familiar with the functionality, you can think of it as a software project. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to choose a repository name, and I will choose a repository name of cool. I will give it a description. I will say this is the cool repo. Then I will select whether this is a public or a private repo. The open source ecosystem, the majority of it is in public repositories, and a lot of enterprise work that is proprietary and do not want to open up the source is done in private repos. I will initialize this with a README. I will also select an MIT license, and most of the open source licenses are available in this pull down. And the other option that we could choose was git ignore. This is to be able to ignore some of the local configurations. However, in this case, we will not move to the desktop environment. We will work entirely on the cloud at the GitHub repository. So let's go ahead and create this repository. And once we've created this repo, repo is often used to refer to the word repository, we can go ahead and send this address to anyone. And even if they're not logged in, they will be able to see it. In this case, you can see here, I am accessing this project from the other browser tab. I'm going to start off in the Peter Parker Data account by adding a file, and you can see here I've clicked on the link, and I'm going to pretend that I am creating a travel list or a document that we're going to use to coordinate a trip. And so I'm going to start off by creating a travel.txt file, and here I will create a list called packing list. I will add an item to this list. We're likely to need to pack shoes, so I've gone ahead and done that. This is all I'm going to do. I'm then going to commit this new file to the repository. And typically we say first commit for the first file that is committed to the project. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this new file. And at this point, I want to go ahead and add a collaborator. So I can do that by going to settings, selecting collaborators, and then adding a collaborator. In this case, I want to add Able Userman. And you can see here that that is available. I've gone ahead and added the collaborator. I'm going to also go ahead and copy the invitation link. You could send this through the mail, but in this case, I'm simply going to paste it into the browser. And as you can see there, I am prompted to accept to become a collaborator in this project. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and accept the invitation. And as you can see there, I get a notification across the top of the window that says you now have push access to the Peter Parker Data /cool repository, which means that I can add changes. I'm going to go ahead and select the travel list. and I will edit it. I will then add one more item here to shoes. We're likely to need a code as well. And I will also add a new category of lists. I will say picnic, and I'm going to go ahead and add the first item. We'll probably need bread if we're having a picnic. And here I will, again, make some annotations about the change that I am making. And these are important because on a large project that has a lot of changes, oftentimes you want to understand what was it that the contributor did in this new contribution. And so in this case, we're simply going to say added picnic list, and we're going to commit the changes. Now, if we go back to the Peter Parker repository and we click on code and we scroll down to travel and we select the file, you'll see there that we can see the changes that were committed by Able Userman, and you can see that this file has had 2 contributors. Now we can also take a look at the history, and you can see here that we have our first commit, and we also have the comment and the contribution of Able Userman, which contributed the picnic list. Now, at every step of the way, each of those changes are tracked and we can roll back. So for example, if we were to select on the first commit, we will be able to see that at this point, this file simply had the information that we entered, which is the one we see here. So you can see that this could be quite useful on a very large team that was contributing heavily, and we wanted to do any rollbacks or we wanted to do any review of when a certain change took place. We would be able to do that by simply walking through this history. Now, the project itself, or the repository itself, has a lot of other features that I will make comments on now. You can see here that it has settings. You can see that is the configuration of the project. It also has insights, which can allow us to see who is contributing and how much contributions they have made. You can see here that in this case, all of the contributions have been done by a couple of people, and those contributions have been done today. However, at the end, I will show you a project that is run for a longer time, and we can get a sense of how active it is and how much the community is contributing. Wiki can allow you to do documentation, and the other thing that I will mention as well is issues. Issues are questions that you have about the project, about the functionality, about some potential bug that might be in the code, and these can be resolved in a public context so that everyone can benefit from that information. Pull requests we'll come back to on another lesson. So I mentioned I would show you a different project. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that now. This is a small prototyping database, and I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that project. I'm going to go ahead and select it. And now if I go and look at insights and look at the contributors, you can see here that this project has been running since 2015. It had a big peak here in April of 2016 and has continued to be fairly active since it was created. Now, if we scroll down, we'd be able to see that Tippy code or Typey code has been the most heavy contributor, and most of the contributions to these projects have come from him. Although that if we scroll down, we'll see that many other people have made contributions, although they are minor. So this gives you a good sense of what has taken place. We could see at a lot of the other categories as well, community commits, code frequency, and so on. And all of this would give us a good sense of how valued this project was. Now, the other thing to note as well is that there is also a sense of how many people are watching this project, keeping track of any changes that might be taking place. There's also a number of stars that the community has given this project. This one is a fairly high number of stars, 8,000. This would be considered a successful project. And there's also a number of forks that have taken place. A fork is a copy of the project code onto a separate user account. And from there on, that account will evolve this project independently. So typically, the functionality of this project in this case would have been used to kick off another branch to this project and another product completely separate from this one. So again, as I mentioned, all of this together is a place where the community can come together and create a project. Even if you're only working with a couple of other people, it is still useful. The functionality that it gives you makes collaboration on something as rich as source code very convenient and avoids a lot of the other issues that would emerge otherwise. So I invite you to come in and create your own account. You can create 2 accounts so you can get a sense of the collaboration aspects of this site.